This is Scenic Roots Talking Writing. Our guest again this week is singer and songwriter Rachelle Barr, who makes music as Cartinglee. The first part of this conversation was on Scenic Roots last week and is up on the website. Growing up, Rachelle conceived of an ideal place where she could escape in her imagination, a place called Cartinglee. Her most recent album, A Little Fog, is a collection of songs evoking the dreamlike reality of Cartinglee, but at the same time, the songs express her fears for the future. Many of us have experienced that kind of anxiety born of changes we can't control, particularly since the onset of the pandemic. But almost all of the songs on this album, expressing Rachel's concern about the future, were written before the onset of the pandemic in 2020.
And so when it happened, I was like, oh my God, all these songs I wrote about everything changing and about, just the world feeling totally different. And the anxiety of knowing something's coming, like there's a storm on the horizon, but you don't know what it looks like yet. That was all wrapped up in the song. And then, everything went in a direction that was totally unexpected for all of us. And, was shocking.
Fault the lines above my eyes. I see the words so differently. The dirt that quakes a crumbled page to write upon. And we fall asleep. In dreams we navigate. In dreams we navigate. We're narrating symphonies and trembling when they wake. Trembling when they wake. And you would highlight tropes and themes across the continental story. If any roads are left, you'd say, let's visit someday soon. And in the car we fall asleep. In dreams we navigate. In dreams we navigate. We're narrating symphonies and trembling when they wake. Trembling when they wake.
Our guest, Rachelle Barr, Cartinglee, from her new album, A Little Fog. That song, Fault Lines, like all but one of the songs on the album, was written within a month-long songwriting challenge with her friends, in which she wrote one song every day for a month. Everything you've said suggests that your approach altogether is instinctive. not necessarily intellectual. It's more emotional of feeling.
Yeah, that's true, I suppose. And yet,
You make it, and then you go back and say, "Oh, that's what that's about."
that's true. That's true. But a lot of that is because of the way that I was writing these songs, which is I sat down and wrote them. Right? Like we were writing a song a day.
Yeah, I know it.
Yep.
Right. And not to put too fine upon it, it's significant pressure.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember you telling me last time that you wrote a song in something like 10 minutes.
I did.
Because that's all the time you had.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you chose to
That
do it
teacher
that
life.
way.
Yeah, that mom life right there. Yeah, no, and that's very true. And so these songs are much more instinctive. And the intellectual approach is the editing process. That's the part that comes backward.
Yeah.
That comes after, I mean. And, you know, when I went to that songwriting conference with Over the Rhine a couple years back, it was a workshop. And I talked to Karen and Linford of Over the Rhine about this. They talked to us about it. And Karen, one of the things she said with a lot of passion, she was like, you know, when you come to write a song, you have to be the creator, not the critic. So she's like, if you are trying to intellectualize the process too much to create something specific, you might find that you lose something there. She was like, of course, you know, you can take that approach as well, and it can create something really powerful, but just make sure that in that approach, there's not criticism and there's not trying to make it better. There's not trying to, oh, I don't like that line, I need to do a better line. No, do that later. Like if you need to write 10 verses of the song, write 10 verses and then choose your favorite 2, you know? And so I really do like that approach, to be honest with you, is allow yourself to be the creator first. Now, I do also like a different intellectual approach to songs. And sometimes in the songwriting, I guess challenges, we could say, I don't know if I like that word, but I guess that's what it is. In those songwriting months, experiences, I like the word experience better. And then during the songwriting experiences, different people have chosen to intellectualize it to a certain extent by, you know, creating boundaries for themselves. And I think we've talked about that before,
I'm
too.
with you. Right. Right on a given topic or something like
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you might learn a lot about that topic in order to write it, or it might be a musical boundary of I'm only going to write songs that start in the key of G and return to the key of G, which is a crazy thing that Eric did one time.
Well, it's been said many times, you know, that creativity is often the result of constriction.
Exactly.
Of being contained in some way. The length or how you
exactly. So
approach it, whatever.
The 10 minutes could have been the constriction, you know,
absolutely.
Every single day is a kind of and the different constriction that and that's a fun thing I think as a creator to experiment with is like, well, what boundaries am I going to place around this creativity this time? You know, where am I going to lead myself this time? And you sort of like, it's almost like it's like my children are in Montessori school this year, and the teacher gives them limited amounts of assignments that they can practice, you know what I mean? Or like they can work these activities, quote unquote. And so, but the teacher's in control because the teachers establish the boundaries within which they make their choices. You know, and I feel like for me, songwriting is a similar thing. You know, I might set up the boundaries within which I can make these sort of emotional choices. And then, so that the setup is intellectual, the process is not. And then the experience afterward, when you go back and you edit, when you go back and refine, when you go back and arrange.
But at some point, you come into the room with other musicians. How does that process work for you? How controlling are you in that situation? How
not
much
very
do you
controlling
just say,
at all. No, it's a conversation.
This is the song. What are you going to do with it?
That's exactly what I do. I know what the outline is and I know what the feeling is, and I want to invite them in to participate in it. We were lucky to be able to do 2 of the songs as a band before, just as to figure out how we were going to interact and how we were going to play and who's going to play what instrument. And that's exactly how I approached it. It was just like, let's, you know, here's the chord chart, here are the lyrics, here's the feeling I'm going for, you know, and then like from there we just parsed it out. We talked about it. People switched instruments from time to time to see which one they were feeling more comfortable on, or if they had an idea that, you know, maybe Michael, I don't really remember if this is true, if this is an example, because this would happen, you know, Michael's over on the bass and he's like, hey, I want to try this line on the guitar. I think it might sound good, you know, and then across that, like throughout that conversation, then that's when the arrangement might grow. We were only able to do 2 of the songs like that, Stardust and Picture the Cloud.
Bought you flowers. Didn't really know what else to do. Left them in the waiting room. there's a time for mourning. Oh, there must be time for moving on. I hope that there'll be laughter in the spring. It's funny how you'll miss them at the times you least expect it to. It's funny, all the things that you believe. Inhale, exhale.
When I am working with a band, especially since they're all my friends, and I really love what they have to contribute, and we've worked with each other. We've all known each other for 15 years, and so we've kind of worked with each other off and on throughout that time. We all met at Lee when we went to college, and so it's sort of been like weaving in and out. Like I sang with Michael sometimes, and Eric and Michael had a duo for a long time, and then I sang with Eric for a while, and all these different things, these different iterations. Michael and Zach had a band, and it just kind of. It's just been a conversation this whole time, and it wouldn't make sense, I don't think, for me to kind of micromanage musically exactly what I want when they each have something really unique to add. And we also have the kind of relationship with each other where we know no feelings are going to get hurt if I'm like, yeah, that's probably not my thing. You know what I mean? Like if I don't like it, they don't care. It was just an idea, And so that is kind of nice. Like it's true that with Cartinglee, I call the shots. I'm the one who's like, oh yeah, that's great. That's not great. But also, there are no shots to call if I'm just controlling the entire process,
Yes, I understand exactly what you're saying. What's interesting to me is, as you say, you're calling the shots because you had a pretty clear idea of how you wanted the song to sound.
I did have a clear idea coming to the table.
Somebody else's hands.
I did. That was definitely a practice in trust in a lot of ways. And just as much with my mixing engineer, Pat, as it was with the other musicians on the album. But once again, it's just because of the trust involved. I don't necessarily trust that they're going to do exactly what I want. But what I trust is that they're going to give me something beautiful and that I can be like, yes. Or I can be like, I think we need something else. And it's not going to hurt the relationship in any way. And having the ability to communicate is what makes that possible. To be able to have that back and forth without people being like, oh, that would put getting their feelings hurt or something. Or me being like, no, absolutely, that was terrible. Like nobody is going to do that in our environment. And so that makes it a lot better.
Yeah. And you know each other well enough that you can, to some degree, I imagine, anticipate each other. Really,
you can, which is great when we get to play live, which is so far never all four of us, but it is going to happen. It is going to happen. We're going to have an album release show, and it's going to be the four of us, and hopefully we might get some guests, and everyone. I really hope Sean is going to come play, so we'll see if he'll do it. I mean, he will. I know he will if we can work it out with his schedule, which is always super busy.
So what's the plan on that? Do you have a venue yet?
I am looking for a venue. Because I'm a high school teacher, I really want it to be a place where I can pretty confidently invite the high schoolers to come as well if they want to.
It strikes me that Cartinglee is a place, is a refuge.
Yes, it is.
It's a place to escape.
Yeah.
So when you were writing this record, well, of course, you were writing this record pre-pandemic, so that doesn't apply.
Well, isn't it fascinating? Like how, but when I was recording this record.
You were very much sort of using music as a refuge?
It was definitely something good to come home to. It was something good to come home and create. Whenever I make the joke that I fit music into the nooks and crannies of my life.
It's an optimistic place for one thing.
It sure is. Yeah. It's optimistic, it's expressive, it's communicative, it's reciprocal and mutual in a lot of ways because you know that you have the relationship with other people creating music with you. You have the relationship with the listeners and the people who are going to hear it. And so there's this kind of like ecosystem that's sort of created. in the process, and it definitely feels like a home, where everything is growing, and it doesn't feel like everything is just constantly being torn down, which I think is what we were coming from in a lot of ways when it came to like.
Faster, I don't notice, I don't imagine the moment I break into hundreds of thousands of pieces, the moment when I'm finally set free.
Kind of going back to what we were saying earlier about music being that safe place, when you think about the environment that I was in, it sure was good to come home. And whenever I had those moments of quiet, whenever I could find those moments of silence, to be able to pick this project up and immerse myself in it, to the point where, maybe a lot of the feelings that and a lot of the experiences that I'd gone through did come out wordlessly, or in metaphor or in mood. But the process was cathartic completely. I mean, it was important for me to have this creative process during that time. It got me through it, honestly. In some ways, I don't know if I would have been able to keep teaching or to keep, I don't know. There were times for sure, and I think other teachers will say this, but I think everybody has gone through over the past 2 years these big moments of like, wow, can I keep doing this? Do I have to shut everything down? Do I need just weeks of silence? Because you kind of get to that point where like, I can't. And maybe part of it, this is another thing, goes back to Picture of the Cloud. Picture of the Cloud it would get stuck in my head every single day because of the line, nothing is wrong from the nuclear bomb. Nothing is wrong. And it's like, when I'm not singing it, I'm like, oh my God, that's so intense. This is a kind of ridiculous thing to write. But like, that's the feeling, right? Of being, in an environment that's trying so hard to be normal when nothing is normal.
Right. And although, to be honest with you, that hadn't occurred to me until you started talking about it, that's reflected in the songs that you've written.
Yeah.
They go from very kind of pastoral and calm to songs that have a lot of energy and are fraught with that kind of nervous energy that develops when you're not quite sure.
Yeah. What's coming or where you stand in it. Yeah, absolutely. Even it's funny the calm songs often have these lyrics that are a little bit like on edge, and even the songs that are less calm have some words that are pastoral, like in the song "Picture of a Cloud." What is this? The second verse: "February is warmer than it's ever been. It's just a little rain, flooded fields of dead nettle, blossoming plum. Nothing is wrong." You have this natural world, this landscape, and all of that inspired by the valley underneath the mountain where I live. So I live up on Lauderback Ridge, which is it's like the ridge behind White Oak Mountain. So when I look across, like from the mountain, we can look across to the other side. Like that line is from me sitting at my piano looking across the valley and, seeing White Oak Mountain in front of me. And so that's just the kind of things that inspire those lines in some ways.
Well, you wrote a song about Lauderback Ridge.
I did. It's the name of the first song on the album, actually. And we even called the studio Lauderback Studios because Lauderback Studios for fun.
It's hard to get away from the whole idea that the music that you make and the milieu in which you create it is very much a place of refuge and a place for you to take stock, to regroup, which was, as you said, that was
it was necessary.
That was your mental health break.
Oh, it was. It's the only one they gave me.
And it's kind of interesting that
actually, because I had to
seem
take
to me
it
anyway that in retrospect, in time to come, you're going to look at this record, and it's going to be a snapshot of a very fraught period in your life and all our lives.
Yeah, it is. It really is, absolutely. And I definitely think the songs kind of reflect that, like you were saying, the waves of the songs with that nervous energy, and then also some of that more pastoral kind of coming home feeling, trying to find a place of peace and a place of rest and even joy. I mean, the last words on the album are like, "You will know one day your joy will come." And I think that is definitely like a song about, that's probably the only song on the album that I feel like is truly hopeful. Not that the other ones are hopeless or anything like that. They're just different. That wasn't the frame of mind, in any way when I was writing them. But maybe not when I was writing this song either. But this song too is about the valley, beneath my mountain and the little river that's down there. And I would see the way that the valley would kind of flood, and just imagining what would grow, So we don't grow any wild rice around here, but at the same time, like I imagine what grows when it's flooded, and thinking about the way that we've sort of stopped all of the flooding with dams, in this area, and things don't flood anymore really here most of the time. We're lucky, and then they do flood, and we're like, what's going on? The little creeks flood too, and we're in the mountains, so it's inevitable. But I was just kind of thinking about how like there is a world in which that is a good thing. There's the flooded fields of dead nettle in Picture of a Cloud that make you uneasy, but then there's the flooded field at the end where the river lingers and the wild rice grows. And so it becomes the thing that has been your curse becomes your blessing. Kind of in that last song, it really comes full circle in that way. And so it's just this feeling of, one day you're going to see that. And we are here on the other side of it, sending you that message across the canyon. And we want you to know that one day you're going to see that, all of the things that you thought were going to ruin you have become your hope, have become your joy.
Beneath the parting star, when heaven
The new album from Cartinglee is A Little Fog. Details are on the cartinglee.com website. This is listener-supported public radio, WUTC, in Chattanooga.
The flooded river.